Hey guys, Spirit of the Law here. I found a really cool scenario I want to show you guys based on the classic 1996 Pokemon Red and Blue series. It's a role-playing game where you control a starting Pokemon trainer and Pokemon, then capture more through conversions and battle to level them up. All of the core elements are there, but played through the lens of Age of Empires game mechanics. The map is quite faithful to the original Pokemon games, and your goal is to beat each of the 8 gyms, and then the Elite Four, and finally the champion. The creator of the map, Sirak, is known for many different scenarios, all of which I'd recommend checking out on the Steam Workshop. For this video though, I want to show you my single player run to become a Pokemon Master. Can I be the very best, the best there ever was? Or will I fail in my test and let down my cause? Let's check it out. So the first major decision is to choose a starting Pokemon between Squirtle, Charmander, and Bulbasaur. As player 1, I get the first choice, and of course I decided to go for my boy Squirtle. He's a plumed archer and looks great in shades. Can't really go wrong there. The one I picked was a bit feisty though, and he started taking out the nearby Charmander as soon as I got him. Just as we were leaving Pallet Town, we were ambushed by a swarm of Pidgeys and Rattatas, held back by an invisible wall. We just grinded out some experience against them for a while, which upped my Squirtle stats quite a bit. Technically, the way it works is every 5 kills you get a slight boost to the stats of all of your Pokemon. The whole time the trainer just sort of waved his arms in the background and cheered him on. Now I didn't catch any of these particular Pokemon because they're sort of weak and I do have limited Pokeballs. Speaking of which, a rule I didn't mention earlier is that I can only capture or convert 1 Pokemon per gym with a maximum of 6. After a bit more grinding out experience, we reached the end of Route 1 and entered Vermilion City. After getting a quick heal, we headed north into Viridian Forest. Now there were all sorts of new Pokemon there like Weedles and Caterpies. Squirtle was pretty tough at this point and seemed to be able to manage taking on up to 10 at once. There were also a few Pikachus mixed in there, one of which I captured using my extra capture one-time boost to get another. My strategy was that the earlier I got them, the more leveling I'd be able to do, and I really liked the ranged aspect of the units. I also took a quick stop in Vermilion City to boost their defensive stats. Then it was back to the grind for a few more minutes. The whole forest was pretty straightforward with a bit of micro and hand waving from my trainer's end. I got the sense my 3 Pokemon and solo run were putting me ahead of the curve, and I didn't run into too many problems. The next town was Pewter City. After another quick heal, I headed into the gym. Just after entering, I ran into a junior trainer who used a Diglett and Sandshrew. After that, I took out Brock's Onix and Geodude without any problems. 1 badge down, 7 to go, along with a new conversion unlocked for the next good Pokemon I see. After leaving, I headed east until reaching Mount Moon. There's a variety of new Pokemon there, including Zubats, Paras, and Geodudes, but nothing worth converting that fit my particular long-range style. In fact, that style appeared to be pretty good against most of the Pokemon I was encountering. Eventually, I ran into a Team Rocket Grunt featuring an Ekans, Coughing, and Meowth. Again, nothing I couldn't handle. Feeling pretty invincible, but still looking for a 4th Pokemon to add, a bit further down the road I reached Route 25. This introduced a bunch of new Pokemon, including Abras, Bellsprouts, and Oddish. Every once in a while I heard there can be some glitches that give especially good stats to wild Pokemon. In fact, the creator of the scenario says that randomly they can be buffed up to 5 times the normal amount. I managed to see one of those, but unfortunately took it out too early before I could capture it. Eventually, I just converted a regular run-of-the-mill Bellsprout. It fit in well with the units I already had, though by now those earliest Pokemon I grabbed were a lot stronger than anything I was running into or able to catch. After making my way through there, I eventually reached Cerulean City, which had another gym. I left the new Bellsprout behind where it would be safe, and I headed in. The first junior trainer I had to fight came out with a Shelder and Horsey, which weren't too hard to deal with. Next was Misty, who had a Starmie that was unexpectedly tough, but outnumbered 3 to 1, it didn't really stand a chance. Heading back after a quick heal up, I decided to buy a bunch of armor upgrades, giving me now +7 defense on all of my Pokemon, except the new Bellsprout, who was at +5. Heading east now out of Cerulean City, I again ran into some wild Pokemon. This time including Geodudes, Magnemites, Rattatas, Raticates, and Spearows. At this point, it was just a bit more grinding to get through them, further leveling up my Pokemon. All of a sudden, one of my competition finally got their Pokemon, though I wasn't too worried about them catching up to me at this point. Speeding up again, further on I reached the Rock Tunnel. Again, I'll skip through it for you since it was a lot of grinding out experience, this time against Onix, Zubats, and Geodudes. I also had to watch out for Gravelers, which have a tendency to explode, and at one point I got a bit overwhelmed by a big swarm of them. This is where my long distance build really helped me out. Things got a bit dicey at one point with my trainer being chased, but eventually I was able to turn things around and push forward. This part would have been a lot easier with some other players joining in. Skipping ahead just outside of that, I reached Lavender Town. I apparently needed the Sylph Scope to proceed further that way, so making a mental note to come back a bit later, I had to move on. Along the way, I passed a Snorlax, but it couldn't be converted, so again, I also had to come back to that, though I did have one conversion saved up since the last gym still. A bit further ahead, I ran into some new types and decided to convert an Ekans. The hope was to use it as a bit of a scout, though it was a way lower level than the rest of what I had, so I had to be very careful with using it. At this point, I was running into a lot of upgraded Pokemon, with +7 attack being now the standard on Route 11. New Pokemon also seemed to be appearing much faster there than they had at previous points, but I didn't feel the need to hang out there any longer than necessary to get extra experience. Continuing on, I got to Vermilion City with yet another gym and a shop to upgrade my armor stats a bit more. After a quick stop, I headed in and encountered my first puzzle. I had to find a couple of switches, which took way longer than I'd like to admit, and 5 minutes later I got the door properly unlocked and faced off against Lieutenant Serge. He had a Voltorb, Pikachu, and a very strong Raichu with +20 attack, but my Pokemon were up to about +40 at this point and had quite a bit of armor, so again, it wasn't really a problem. The next way I headed was north, which had a lot of ranged units that nearly took out my Ekans. It was down to just a few HP. I quickly converted another Bellsprout that I saw, bringing me to a total of 6 Pokemon now, and went back for a heal up. This was by far the most difficult part I had faced up to this point. It was a pretty intense grind for a few minutes to get through them all, which also had the nice benefit of pumping up my stats even more. My original Squirtle was by this point a Wartortle with +53 attack and 772 HP with 23 armor on top of that. Pretty tanky stats. Even still, I couldn't take out enemy Pokemon in a single volley anymore. This particular forest had a lot of Growlithe, Bellsprout, Oddish, and Vulpix, now with an average of +12 attack. After a ton of fighting, I got through it and made my way to Celadon City. This one was pretty cool because it came with more than just basic armor upgrades. The shop also had improvements for attack, speed, and HP. I decided to hold off buying anything until I could get the speed upgrade, since that was something most of my units lacked. Also, while I was there, one of my rivals was eliminated, presumably by some Pidgeys or Rattatas near the start. Looking for another gym, I headed north and passed a pervy old man. Seriously, that's his name. And I battled some beauties. They included a lot of new Pokemon that I hadn't seen in the wild. I'll skip through this part again since it was just a lot of pretty easy fights. That all unlocked the path to get to a battle with the 4th gym leader, Erica. She had some new Pokemon too, and they were quite good, but my stacked team of 6 again didn't have much of a problem. Having gotten my 4th badge and a bit of extra gold, I headed back out and returned to the supermarket to pick up the Carbo Speed Boost. It was pretty expensive, but I figured it might pay off if it lets my Pokemon escape a future dangerous situation. After traveling down the road again, I reached Saffron, which had yet another gym, though this one I couldn't seem to enter. I had to go into the unofficial martial arts gym first. A black belt by the door confronted me with his Machop and Machoke, and another had 2 Mankeys and a Primate. That all went pretty well, but next I was up against the gym leader who used a Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee. I was pretty confident at this point my Pokemon could take them on, but critically sent my trainer in front. I didn't even notice he was being attacked directly by the Hitmonlee until it was too late. That ended my Pokemon quest, and all of my Pokemon also mysteriously died at that instant. Now having blacked out, I waited there for a Nurse Joy to come and pick me up, to take me to the Pokemon Center. At the very least, I thought human decency would mean the gym staff would carry me to a nearby hospital. Minutes turned to hours, and hours to days. As I began to waste away, I realized that no Nurse Joy was going to come to my rescue. My dream was over, and I lost. So that was my Pokemon adventure, or perhaps misadventure. If you'd like to try your own, either single player like I did, or online in a group, it's easy to pick up from the Steam Workshop. Having not played the Pokemon series for years, it was a nice little reminder of some fond memories, and I was impressed with the way so many aspects were incorporated in. Even if you weren't part of the Pokemon Blue and Red craze during the late 90s, the scenario can definitely stand on its own as a fun RPG. That's all for this video though. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you next time.